Today, we're looking at Diamine's Imperial Purple. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine's Imperial Purple is a purple ink. Not like their Imperial Blue, that's much more purple than blue, but this is a purple ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a fountain pen Revolution Himalaya with their flex nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we go to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. We see that there is a line across the bottom that shows a little bit of hold on for this ink, and that's immediately in the water. Now that purple works its way up. It's a much darker purple towards the top, and very faintly on the top you see some light blue. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. The only difference between the two of them that I'm seeing is that purple line across the bottom is much darker than it was in the ink that immediately went into water. Now, resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. The highlighter it did very well with. It did spread out and go from being an extra fine to about a fine medium, but I can completely read what's there, which makes me feel safe as a note taker. Water didn't do too well against it. It took all the darker tones of purple, but left a lot of ink behind. But we saw that a little bit in the chromatography. Even in the immediate chromatography, some ink stayed on the bottom of the page. Pen flush did just a little bit more than water, and this to me becomes the worrisome part. It's not a normal thing for Diamine inks to be this persistent unless they say that they're permanent or document inks, but this one really wanted to stay. I'm not sure that pen flush is going to be enough. When we look at bleach, it completely removes it from the page. It does leave a little bit of yellow staining behind. I think if you had to use a 1/3 bleach solution, you could put it through the pen quickly and then flush it to make sure that you go ahead and get the bleach out of there. But I am not sure that pen flush is going to be enough to get this off the paper. Now for flow or viscosity, for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine's Imperial Purple has a viscosity of 3.43, which might be the highest viscosity shown so far. Now, this can explain why so much ink is left behind. What we see is what's going down onto the paper is thick. It's not that there's a lot of it. It means that there's a lot of stuff in it. It's very thick, and that doesn't just show because the viscosity is where it is, but with the viscosity being what it is, and that much being left behind, there must be a lot in it. It must be a very dense ink. It makes me feel like drier pens might be the way to go, especially something like a stub. Now, to find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on the Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. And Diamine's Imperial Purple has an average dry time of 8 seconds, which seems incredibly fast, especially considering its very high viscosity number, meaning not as much ink as is going down. But what it makes me feel is that there is so much stuff in this ink, but there's much less liquid. So it's one of these, like the surface area. I know it's kind of like how hot water freezes faster than cold water. And that's where it makes me feel that this might seem counterintuitive, but when I think of ice hockey and cleaning the rinks, it sort of makes a little bit more sense. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and wow, like Imperial Blue, this is a thick ink. it looks like I have a completely filled sample. Look at that. I do that. Totally filled. And super dark. Look at that. That is going to lead to some disappointment. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub. I use a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. One day somebody's going to watch these things and they're like, why are you being an idiot? I don't know, I'm an idiot. Yeah, aren't you an ink guy? Yeah, but I'm an idiot too. Let's look at the Clairefontaine, where we get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. It's a nice purple here. It is a nice purple. The Imperial Blue, I did not like that blue. This is a nice purple. Here. The Extra Fine's a lighter tone. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 6 seconds to dry. It's just lighter tone. Medium, darker tone again, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 7 seconds to dry. The Scrubby for both showed us no color variation. We got no color variation. Ew. It's nice here. I don't like it here. Smear test says you can likely recover it. Let's look at Clairefontaine. At Rhodia. Rhodia gives us no bleeding. It does give ghosting. I really don't like the tone of this purple on this paper. A lot of what we're going to see when I talk about the tone is not always the fault of the ink. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. If you like this purple, the good news is it's boring in that it's predictable. This is boring in a good way in how predictable it is if you like the tone of this ink. If you like the tone of this ink. The Extra Fine, same tone, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 9 seconds to dry. The Medium, same tone, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 14 seconds to dry, so the dry times are very manageable. The Scrubby shows us no color variation. We got none. The smear test says you don't get to recover it. But why do you smear something on Tomoe River if you want to recover it? Be more careful, you klutz. Rhodia, no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. If you don't care about any of those qualities and you like purple and you like this purple, go for it. It's not a tone I care for. Extra Fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It only took 5 seconds to dry, which is a good quality here. So I really want to highlight what it's doing very well. It dries fast, very well. The tone is really consistent throughout the writing. I just don't like this tone of purple. Medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. Exact same tone that we got with the Extra Fine. 8 seconds to dry. The Scrubby of the Extra Fine and the Medium showed us no color variation. We got no color variation. And a smear test, you could likely recover it. So let's try and spice this ink up a little bit, maybe with some different tone background. Yellow Rhodia, of course we expected no bleeding and no ghosting. Does it do anything for the tone? No, sir, it does not, because this is a super saturated, dense dye in this ink. And I can tell that by the fact that it's totally unaffected. This is very opaque. The 1.1 still has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. I still don't like the tone. The Extra Fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It has the same tone as the 1.1, so that consistency is nice. 5 seconds to dry. The same tone as both the writing samples before in the Medium, with no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 8 seconds to dry, but look at those great dry times. If you're going to be impatient on it and you like purple, go for it. Nice. And it's the same tone on the yellow. I just don't care for this tone of purple. The Scrubby of both show us no color variation. We got none. The smear test says you could likely recover it, and I believe it. What about Inky Fingers Notebook? No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. It is toned down slightly. Slightly, just still,
Same tone for the extra fine as we had with the 1.1, with no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 4 seconds to dry. The thing I have to say for this ink is it does really consistent tones through its writing. So I have to give it that. It does that really well. So when I call stuff boring, I don't mean boring as in anything bad. Boring's predictable. This is predictable. And I hope somebody likes this tone so that they can always have this purple no matter what they write with or on. It's just not me. Medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both showed us no color variation. We got none. And the smear test, you could likely recover it. So Leuchtturm paper with no bleeding, no ghosting. And the 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. And then coming in at the exact same tone, the extra fine with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, and 7 seconds to dry. So for you journalers out there that really like to use the Leuchtturm paper, and if you like this purple ink, you go for it. 7 seconds, super manageable. Same exact tone with the medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 10 seconds to dry. Still super manageable dry time. The scrubby for both shows us no color variation. We got none. And the smear test, you might. Now you might not. See, there's a maybe here. Maybe you could recover it, maybe you couldn't. That is all that I have for this writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine's Imperial Purple, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I've chosen Noodler's Golden Brown because it is a great orangey brown color. That the orangey brown with this purple goes very nice, and it's darker for this vivid color. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Diamine's Imperial Purple? I was constantly let down with its tones and performance, which makes me feel bad for those people that like this ink. You're allowed to like any ink you want. This purple did nothing for me, although I'm a big fan of purple inks, just not this one. Thanks for watching.